When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Take my hat off.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Morris?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
the doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Now, we've had a number of interesting people on this show just this year alone, 2024. And to keep it going, we've enlisted the more than capable David Byrd. Who is David Byrd? In March 2023, David J. Byrd was awarded the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for his long commitment to building a stronger nation through volunteer services. As a certified professional life skills coach, Mr. Byrd worked with young men in juvenile detention and homeless families and individuals in Washington, D.C.'s largest shelter. But that's not where I met David Byrd. I met David Byrd in the midst of a Republican revolution here in the state of Maryland, where we got the first Republican governor in 36 years. And I'm going to say this loud, proud, and without hesitation. The work that was done during the Ehrlich, thank you, Mr. Farrow, during the Ehrlich Steele administration laid the groundwork. It raised the bar because there are many of us here in the state of Maryland who feel, who believe, who know that the black vote, the black Democratic vote, has been sincerely taken for granted. Come on. Talking to Pharaoh. So when you think about how much political effort, how much political capital we put into elections, what do we get in return for our vote? There's an election coming up this year in May, a local election, a presidential election. The next gubernatorial election would be in 26, in 2 more years, where we will decide if Wes Moore gets reelected or maybe he will be moving on to the presidential. But the point is, there are those of us here in Baltimore and Prince George's who question the value of the black vote. Nobody gets elected without Baltimore, without Prince George's County. Nobody. But so often when it goes down, like right now, marijuana is legal. It's legal to sell weed. It's legal. It's legal. There's a dispensary not far from here, Cathedral Street. And all through this process, there have been talks about blacks being involved in buying dispensaries and growing And I say that because when it comes to mass incarceration, particularly here in the state of Maryland, blacks have led the way. Nobody gets locked up more than people from my zip code, 21217. Nobody in the state of Maryland. Yeah, right down the street, there's some white boys selling weed. The same weed that my people got locked up for selling. The same weed that my people are doing 10, 20, life. But right down the street, right now. And nobody can explain it. In a majority black city, a 9-1 Democratic city, a 2-1 Democratic state, blacks have no power. Without further ado, we want to bring to the forefront Mr. David Byrd to help me understand this and other plaguing dilemmas, such as Baltimore City Public Schools, $23,000 per pupil. No accountability. Black people at the top of this pyramid. Minority business enterprise. Despite all of the efforts, and to O'Malley's credit, he played a positive role, laid some groundwork. Ehrlich did, Steele did. But yet, at the end of the day, blacks get, what, 5%?
I think that's what, Donnie, I think that's what the report came in when Westmore walked in. I think when his team looked at what it was, I don't think black-owned businesses were getting about 5%. But listen, here's the interesting thing of what you said. You know, and first of all, thank you again for having me as a guest on your program. Yes, 21 years ago yesterday, I walked in the lieutenant governor's office with Michael Steele as him being the first black elected official statewide in the history of Maryland. Without a Michael Steele, there is no Westmore. So let's be very clear about that. Without Michael Steele, there is no Westmore. Before Michael Steele, the Republican Party had never gotten more than 5% of the black vote statewide. And with Michael Steele on the ticket, they got 15% of the vote statewide. But yet, 21 years later, or 20 years later, this past October, when they celebrated the 20th anniversary of Bob Ehrlich and Michael Steele being elected, somehow the Republican Party misplaced or inadvertently forgot to invite Michael Steele to the party. They said it was inadvertent. They said it was not something that was done intentionally, but yet it keeps being done.
So as a black Republican, you deal with racism as well.
Of course. There's racism on, but if you talk to black Democrats, they suffer the same things that we suffer on this side of the fence. It's just a different location, different party.
What was the girl name in Harford County? Marianne Lusante. She called Prince George's County the nigger district. The delegate from Prince George's County, white girl.
I don't know how I missed that. But I'm not surprised. Well, first of all, because every time there's black achievement or black dominance, there's going to be people going to try to find a way to discount it. And now the most number
racism is so stupid though, David. It's so stupid.
It is because we limit our own achievements by doing that. So we have Prince George's County at this point in time has the most number of registered Democrats in the state of Maryland, according to the 2020 census. So the most number of registered Democrats in the state of Maryland are located in Prince George's County. And so Prince George's County and Baltimore City are now the dominant places for black voters. And yet, Donnie, in this statewide election coming up for U.S. Senate on Tuesday, May 15th, which is not that far away, you don't have a Baltimore.
May 14th.
May 14th. You don't have a Baltimore City or Baltimore County elected official or resident who's running to capture the Democratic Party nomination. I find that very, in the history of politics and dominance of the state. I just find that very interesting that the two major candidates are from outside of the Baltimore region.
Oh, are you talking about for the U.S. Senate race?
Yes, sir. For the U.S. Senate race. Yes, sir.
Well, we had Kwesi back in 06, and O'Malley and Mike Miller treated him like a stepchild. They treated him like, I don't know, Cinderella was treated by her stepsisters.
Yes, yes, yes.
They had no respect for him.
Yes,
not at all.
Kwesi was the trailblazer in running that, in running, and then a couple of years ago, of course, Donna Edwards ran in the primary against Van Hollen. So it's very interesting because you do have a strong player in this year's contest, and Angela also Brooks, who is the county executive of Prince George's County. She's a very strong player in this race, but she's also up against Congressman David Trone from Montgomery County, who has a very, very big and unlimited, I would say, almost unlimited checkbook.
See, the money can be counted if you have the know-how. And a part of the know-how that I think is lacking in the Alston Brooks campaign is the people power.
I agree with you.
Elected officials don't vote. So you can get all of the elected official endorsements that you want, but that's not the people.
Donnie, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I just had this conversation with a Prince George's County elected official yesterday. You are absolutely right. Endorsements don't vote. The question that I have is all those elected officials who have given Ms. Also Brooks their endorsement, are they giving her their list of donors? Are they giving her their list of volunteers? Are they going to put their machines out there on the street for Ms. Also Brooks?
And is she asking for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And on top of that,
if I know you have the resources, it's incumbent upon me to say, David, can you help me in this area?
That's right.
If I don't, you have not because you asked not.
That's right.
A lot of times.
Ask and you shall receive. The question is,
knocking the door shall be open.
That's right. And so the question is, because most of the people who have given her their endorsement are not on the ballot this year, Donnie. So it's very easy for me to give you my endorsement if I am not if my own.
I got no skin in the game.
Absolutely. 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 So in my opinion, it's the people power. We've seen in the past millionaires, billionaires run for office and not succeed because they didn't have the connection to the community. The people power. They had the money power to buy all the ads and TV time and do all the polling they wanted.
But if they walk down the street, nobody would know who they are.
That's exactly right. But we
got a mayor's race like that. We got a mayor's race just like that, where we got one candidate and nobody knows him. He's gone from a Republican to an independent to a Democrat.
Who you talking about?
Still, nobody knows him.
You talking about Wallace? Absolutely.
If he walked down the street, nobody would know who the hell he is.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Sometimes we're a legend in our own mind.
Howard Cosell. Absolutely. That's what people said about Howard Cosell. He was a legend in his own mind.
No, Howard Cosell was a legend.
He was a great broadcaster. Monday Night Football.
And I would say Muhammad Ali helped make him a legend.
Absolutely. They made each other.
They made each other in many ways. In many ways. I would say Muhammad Ali did more for Howard Cosell, though. But Howard Cosell still, they helped each other. I would walk that back. They helped each other.
Right.
We all need each other in this world.
And growing up, Donnie, believe it or not, growing up in grade school, my parents brought me a small radio, and I used to walk around in the mornings and listen to a show on WABC in New York that Howard Cosell had called Speaking of Everything. And he used to talk about the issues of the day. So he was more than a sportscaster. He was a brilliant guy that talked about the issues of the day. Of course, people remember him and Ali, but for those of us in the New York, New Jersey area, we used to listen to his show called Speaking of Everything, and it was a great program.
I remember as a kid trying to imitate Howard Cosell. Who wouldn't try to imitate Howard Cosell? That says Howard Cosell.
But you know what I enjoyed?
And then Ali would play with his toupee.
Absolutely. But you know what I've enjoyed more than, besides his interviews and conversations with Ali? If you remember, Donnie, and this was before the era of 24-hour news, ESPN, everybody used to tune in Monday night to listen to the halftime highlights with Howard Cosell, when they would show you what happened on the games around the rest of the country that you didn't have access to, what happened yesterday, and he would show you the highlights, and everybody used to tune in. That was must-see TV. Absolutely. So I remember that very fondly.
Do you have must-see TV today?
I do have must-see TV. I watched last night, and I tell you what, after what I saw this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised today if the coach of the Eagles is fired, if the coach of the Cowboys is fired. What I saw over the weekend was abominable. And I predicted that the Eagles would lose, by the way, Donnie, because after I saw them lose 5 of the last 6, they started the season 10-1, and then they completely collapsed. The game against the Giants was horrible. I just knew when you stumble into the playoffs like that, they were ripe for the picking. And the Tampa Bay Bucks, 1 year after Brady retired, just really dismantled them last night. It was terrible.
All right. Well, must-see TV for me is 11:30 p.m. Saturday night.
Okay. What Saturday Night Live?
The monologue, man. It's the greatest piece of American television. 11:30, 11:35. It's like the Holy Grail.
It depends on who the guest is. You know, it's funny.
Still gotta watch it. It's kind of like going to church.
Yeah, I do it depending on who the guest is. Like, I will never miss it. You know, every time Dave Chappelle comes on, I never miss it because I think he's one of the
Speaking of which, did you see the Cat Williams special?
I did not yet. I will go back on streaming and see it. I haven't, but I'm really becoming, I have to tell you something. I was not, but I'm becoming more and more, thanks to my wife, because she is. I'm becoming a Cat Williams fan. I'm finding him to be a truth teller. And he's speaking a lot of sense. So I'm becoming I have to admit to you, I was not, but I'm becoming a Cat Williams fan.
What took you so long?
Because I was watching Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, and Chris Rock. Those guys with, I have to put Dave
Don't
Chappelle.
Forget DL. You can't leave out DL.
No, I can't. But those guys are at the top of the pyramid. In fact, Dave Chappelle, you know, he did a show on New Year's Eve. I think it was New Year's Eve that he did a live show. He did a show, and then there was another documentary that just came out with Kevin Hart and Chris Rock together.
I saw Kevin Hart in a movie. I think I'm still watching it. And he's like an international criminal. And I gotta commend him on this because, quite frankly, I get tired of seeing black men in dresses. Let's just put that out there. I'm personally sick of it.
Right.
So to see him in a serious role, I can really appreciate it. I mean, he hasn't cracked a smile yet. The latest movie that he has out, like I said, I'm still watching it, but it's nice to see him. Now, here's the interesting thing. Cat Williams is worth about $2 million according to the listings that are out there. But your boy Kevin Hart is worth about $450 million.
Yeah, my wife told me about that. My wife loves to go and look at Google up that you can get information so quickly. She loves to Google up and see.
He's so far ahead of the game. So Cat Williams can tell jokes on him forever and ever. I don't think he's touching that 450.
No. But you know what I like too, Donnie?
He's a cancer.
And this goes back,
like you. He's a cancerian like you.
Yeah, this goes back to what you're doing and what your show is that what I love that Dave Chappelle is doing is that he is also co-producing or producing other artists as executive producer of their programs. For example, he produced a special with Earthquake, which I thought was terrific. He produced a special with this sister Luella, which had a special on, I think it was HBO or Showtime, that was very well done. So what I like is I see other Black artists are investing in and doing business with other Black artists. And this is so inspiring to me, because I think when we look at yesterday, Dr. King's birthday, everybody trying to commercialize Dr. King. I think this is what Dr. King and Malcolm X and other folks were talking about. We're looking forward to that day of when we were doing and getting past and doing business with each other.
Well, I gotta put a caveat in there. That's not new to us.
No, not to you. Not to you. You've been doing it for a while, but you know what? It's new to a lot of other people.
But it's not new to us as a people.
Well, no. When we had Wall Street, we were doing a lot of people don't even know about Black Wall Street, Donnie.
And then it wasn't just in Oklahoma, it was all over the country. Absolutely.
But a lot of people don't know their history. That's why there are truth tellers like yourself. That's why this program, that's why you were unapologetically so important. That's why you are unapologetically so important, because you are telling what our community and our history and our people need to know. People don't even know that one of the founders of the NFL was Black, Fitz Pollard.
You've blown my mind with that one.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't even know that.
Fitz Pollard?
Fitz Pollard. The $11 billion juggernaut called the NFL, back when they were first founded, I think in 1920, the league, when you could buy a franchise for $200 or something like that. One of the founders of the league, and was a coach before they closed the door to Black players till 1945 again, was Fitz Pollard.
Do you remember Bingo Long?
Long and the Traveling All-Stars.
I remember the scene in that movie where the young boy, I think he stuttered, but he got a shot at the majors. And I think it was Billy D and Richard Pryor. They looked at each other and said, "This is the beginning of the end." I was watching Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney talked about the things that white people have stolen from Black people.
Donnie, do you know in 1920?
What can we have? What can we have without you stealing it from us? You say we can't even have a headache.
Do you know what was the biggest Black business in 1920, Donnie?
Here's some aspirin. Go take it. You can't have a headache. The biggest business in 1920. Now that's a loaded question. I mean, oil, 1921, that's when Tulsa's Black Wall Street got burned to the ground. Are you talking about Black business, white business?
Black business. In 1920, what was the biggest Black business in America?
Was it sports?
Yes, and you just said it. It was Negro baseball.
Negro League baseball. Yeah.
These guys were organized. They knew how to go after their audience.
Rube Foster.
That absolutely. They knew their audience. They knew they knew how to go out there and they did double headers, triple headers.
And then this cat in Brooklyn, what's his name? Branch Rickey.
Right. Branch Rickey was the guy who
Rickey, ain't it? Branch.
Yeah, Branch Rickey from the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Is that the name?
Yep, that's the guy who recruited Jackie from the Kansas City Monarchs to the Brooklyn Dodgers. Yep.
But there were also the basketball team, the Wrens.
The Harlem Globetrotters, of course.
No, the Wrens. The Harlem
Wrens. Yes, of course. The Wrens were the first. They were the trailblazers. Absolutely. The Harlem Wrens. Absolutely. They were the ones. And today, look at the NBA, international juggernaut now. Absolutely. And how the whole sport is transformed. So, I mean, when you look back what these guys. Oh, in fact, one of the reasons why Reggie Jackson is one of my favorite baseball players of all time is because when he signed that historic contract with the New York Yankees, he gave tribute to Jackie and the role Jackie played to be able to, so that he could be and sign that contract. I'm sorry, Donnie, that he left the Orioles.
No. I wear Yankees gear, and I don't care who in Baltimore don't like it. But I remember when the Orioles had Reggie Jackson, he wore number 9, and they treated him like SHIT. They treated him poorly. Steinbrenner gave him that money. He went to New York. He had 3 home runs in one World Series game. I will never forget it.
That's right.
What? And one, man, he had the meanest stride. He was a lefty. Whop!
Wait a minute. 3 home runs on 3 pitches. He hit the first pitch every time in that game. And the only other player who had ever done that was Babe Ruth.
And Babe Ruth was a legend. I have to give Babe Ruth props. Baltimore kid. Got to give Babe Ruth props.
Absolutely.
You don't know baseball if you don't give Babe Ruth props.
Absolutely. The only other person who has done it since, there's 3 people who've done that now. Babe Ruth, Reggie Jackson, and another guy named Albert Pujols. Pujols, yes. He just retired a couple of years ago. He's the only Hispanic player in the history of baseball that hit 700 home runs, the 700 club.
How do you spell his name?
Pujols. Albert Pujols. Played for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Really? Well, yes. Who was the famous St. Louis Cardinal that changed the game for everybody?
Oh, my goodness. Well, there were several. Bob Gibson on the mound.
No, he sued American baseball and won.
Oh, Curt Flood, of course. No, he didn't win.
He did win.
That's where you're mistaken. He did not win.
He did win.
No, he didn't. He went to the Supreme Court. He lost, but he changed the game because he questioned the legality of the reserve.
He won, David. David, he won.
No, he didn't win.
He
didn't win. No, he went to go. Donnie, go look it up. He didn't win. What he did was he began the crumbling of the reserve clause system.
He sued American baseball and won, David.
Donnie, I hate to disagree with you on here, but go look it up. He did not win his case. What he did was he questioned the legality and he began the crumbling of the foundation of the reserve clause, because it was soon after that that you had free agency come to baseball, but he laid the groundwork by filing that suit.
We about to have an argument here.
Donnie, go look it up. He did not win. He did not win his case before the Supreme Court.
Why was the Curt Flood Act passed? Curt Flood Act of 1998. No, that's not what I'm looking for.
You go look it up, Donnie. He actually did not win his Supreme Court case. But he laid the groundwork so that several years later, the historic case of Andy Messersmith and Catfish Hunter were able to.
Dave McNally.
That's right. Thank you.
See, David, your facts ain't all the way straight either.
No, I didn't. I
have never known him. Curt Flood, who came out of sued American baseball in an effort to be. This is a Sports Illustrated article. Came out of what sues Major League Baseball in an effort to be declared a free agent after being traded against his will to the Phillies. On this date in 72, the Supreme Court, in what is seen as a flawed ruling, ruled against him. So you're correct. But he set the stage for free agency, which would be part of baseball within 5 years, and created the sport we know now. and then football was to follow. So I got that story a tad twisted.
And then basketball, thanks to our hero, or one of the basketball heroes, Oscar Robertson, because Oscar Robertson then followed suit when he sued NBA owners to create free agency among basketball players. Okay,
so we have some backseat drivers that want us to get back to the power of the black vote.
I don't mind that at all. We've got so much to talk about. Before we got off on this tangent, we were talking about the power of black voters in Prince George's and Baltimore City. And
do you remember when Wayne Curry and Kurt Schmoke told Paris Glendening to pump his brakes?
I do. I not only do I remember when Paris Glendening left and went to Annapolis, and he left Wayne Curry, the new county executive, with a $300 million deficit. I remember that.
Wayne Curry said, "We're not just jumping over here endorsing you, Slim. We want to know what you're gonna do for us."
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's a Marion Barry type political. And the thing is, we as a people, we get so caught up. I'm a Democrat, and I'm not a Trump supporter. I just want you to know, I think he's an insurrectionist. I think he's a traitor. I think he caused 5 people to get killed in Washington, D.C. And I think he doesn't own his own SHIT. Own your SHIT. Own it. That's what you did. Own it. You let them people come up in the Capitol. Own it. And I don't think he's qualified to be president. But the people in the Republican Party think otherwise. And he's leading.
Wait a minute. 51% of Iowa caucus voters last night say otherwise.
What did they say, David?
They said that we choose Donald Trump as our standard bearer to go forward to their party's nomination. 51% in the Iowa caucuses yesterday, beating Mr. DeSantis and Ms. Haley by almost 30 points.
Could you believe Nikki Haley gave the answer negating slavery as the cause of the Civil War? Could you believe that?
I could, yes, because in their mind, that's not part of what's important to them. So I'm not surprised in 2024 now, Donnie.
I was disgusted. I was disgusted that I liked her up until that point.
I can see that. I can see that, because you would think she would have had a different perspective, being I
didn't know she was so stupid.
And she was the one who
Sarah Palin's stupid
to sign the legislation to bring down the flag in South Carolina on top. So, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't. It once again, Donnie, this talks about what we said just a few minutes ago, where people will take the opportunity to neglect, not mention, or deflate or degrade Black achievement.
If it weren't for Kurt Flood and those people, Dave McNally, Andy Messersmith, they sacrificed. And Kurt Flood, he sacrificed the most. I mean, he fell into a deep alcoholism, went off to Europe, lived in squalor, lived as a derelict, got his life together, cleaned up, came back to America and said, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And came even closer. And now you got cats like Lamar, like our quarterback in Baltimore, making tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Listen, this was unprecedented, because Kurt Flood stood up and said, you will not treat me like a slave, son.
Listen, can you believe, Donnie, when Jackie Robinson played, he made $7,000 for the season, and some players get that for one at bat.
I was thinking about when he was out there in the outfield and they was throwing everything at him, including the kitchen sink, trash, urine, the whole nine.
Unbelievable. And so
then I was thinking about Barack Obama, because there are a lot of Black people said that they wanted to see Barack Obama have a black moment. And it made me think that, you know, the first black in the door is typically not your Nat Turners, your Tucson Louvertures, not in America.
That's true. That's true.
They need a softer, more palatable, more amicable, malleable.
Well, remember, Donnie,
nation.
Remember, Donnie, the thought was that Jackie wasn't the best player in the Negro Leagues.
Oh no. Satchel Paige, man, Josh Gibson. These were players.
Right. But the reason why Branch Rickey picked Jackie was because he thought Jackie could be the person to deal with what was to come in his first several years in the major leagues.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Take me to the Middle East, man. What's going on?
Listen, here's an
you got the Gaza Strip over here, October 7th. Hamas in a surgical attack. You know, you look at Gaza Strip, they over there, it's like the hood, it's like the ghetto, it's like the black people of the Middle East. So then around 1945, 1948, these people come in, not talking about Judaism, but talking about Zionism. And so now you got these influx of people from Europe that are coming to the Gaza Strip and telling the people who have been living there, you got to go.
Well, what I'd like to mention, Donnie, is a lot of people, for some reason, are surprised that South Africa took Israel to the World Court.
Did you see that?
And accuse them of genocide. But what I remind people, Donnie, that Mandela talked about Israel soon after he was released. He reminded people, or he informed those who did not know, that during the apartheid era, it was Israel who supplied the weaponry to the apartheid regime against the ANC. So why are you surprised that the ANC, who runs South Africa today, is taking Israel to the World Court? They do not have any love for Israel. They remember who Israel is. They were the ones who supplied the weapons to the apartheid regime against them.
But see, you got the National Newspaper Publishers Association leader, Ben Chavis Muhammad, as soon as the October 7th attack happens, comes out and say, we stand with Israel. And it's like, son, do you know your history? Ben Chavis Muhammad. Do you? Do you know your history, son?
Or do you know, wait a minute, Donnie, the real question, you're asking the wrong question. Not do you know your history, do you know your donors? Do you know your benefactors? I don't know who the benefactors are to the NNPA. Do you know your benefactors? Do you know your donors?
Their big goal is to get those big corporate ads. General Motors, Cadillac, Hennessy.
Do you know your donors? Do you know your benefactors?
Do you know what a slave is?
Bill Rhoden said in his book, he called some of these athletes $40 million slaves. Remember the title of his book, Donnie? $40 million slave.
Stand up on the block. They check your muscles.
Exactly.
Check your teeth.
Remember what happened?
Your testicles.
Remember what happened in Django? They had to fight.
I didn't watch the movie. I still haven't.
Yeah. So
Quentin Tarantino talked too much smack for me. He said this is the best slavery movie ever, and I just couldn't stomach any more of that. Whoever controls your money controls your life. My mother would say, "Those with the gold make the rules."
That's the golden rule. Absolutely, your mother was right. It's a heck of a movie, and not from an entertainment purpose for people to see what really was going on at that time, some of the things that went on.
You want to show me something? Show me the Haitian Revolution in a movie. Show me some Tucson Louverture, Quentin Tarantino. Because I get tired of the stereotypes of black people, because when I think of Django, it takes me back to The Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith, the first feature film in the United States that they showed foreigners who would come to visit the White House as to the character of the black person in America. You know, big lips, spooky eyes.
Well, that was to scare people. That was to scare people, because remember, after our men came back from World War I with their uniforms on, they demanded equality. They demanded
every skirmish that the black soldier fought in, going back to the Civil War, going back to the Revolutionary War, like the 1st Rhode Island Regiment from up your way. You know about the 1st Rhode Island Regiment?
I sure do.
Many people say they tipped the Revolutionary War. A lot of us don't know that many blacks fought for the British. That's how you got a Sierra Leone, which, by the way, came up with the first black newspaper in the world. We don't know that here in the United States. We think it was Freedom's Journal. But Sierra Leone had the first black newspaper in the world. Haiti had the second, after they had that revolution with Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henry Christophe.
Well, speaking of Haiti, America owes a big debt to Haiti, because if it wasn't for Haitian soldiers showing up at the Battle of Savannah, there might not be an America today.
A lot of people don't know that the French owned 2/3 of the United States at one junction, and with the purchase of the Louisiana Purchase, that's when this country, got the rest of the 2/3 of the American. A lot of people don't know that California is really Mexico.
That's right.
Let me tell you something else, David. I heard this man, older man, 10 years older than me, last week, talking about blacks don't stick together. We always hating on each other. David, we are 13% of the U.S. population. Unlike the Latinos, we don't have people crossing the border every day who are black. We are limited in numbers. And despite all of that, despite the mass incarceration, despite the health disparities, everything from AIDS to asthma to cancer, despite the food deserts, and a mass incarceration that's just off the hook. We're 5% of the world's population, yet we have 25% of the world's inmates. 40% are black men, and black women are the fastest growing demographic. Despite having a school superintendent in Baltimore that makes over $300,000 a year, and yet we're producing a product that cannot read, cannot write in cursive. Despite all of these things against black people, including the breakdown of the nuclear family, highlighted in movies like Claudine, where James Earl Jones had to jump out the window to hide from the welfare lady. Despite all of these things, still we rise, David.
That's
right. Still we rise.
Still
we become president. Still we become governor. Still we become mayor. Still we become lawyers and doctors and astronauts like Ronald E. McNair.
That's right. Who was almost arrested as a 9-year-old when he went to the library because he wanted to borrow a book from the library. Because black children weren't supposed to borrow books from the local library where he grew up.
What's the shot of hope, David? You're brought here in your Sunday best to drop some hope on the people.
I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful because we have some great unsung heroes here in Prince George's County, Baltimore City, the state of Maryland, across the country. People like yourself and myself who are working every day out here on behalf of our people. And
even though you're a Republican, you can work for black people.
Listen, we have a great history of working in both political parties, going back to to the end of the Civil War, to Reconstruction.
Frederick Douglass, on both sides of the aisle, we can quote a number of people. Jackie Robinson himself was a Republican. If you go back and look, the great Jackie Robinson. My grandmother was a Republican.
Absolutely. Some of our
heroes, and it's okay to be a Democrat. My thing is, though,
absolutely
hold them accountable.
Absolutely,
and not just the figurehead positions. Yes, we like Adrian Jones as Speaker of the House. Yes, we like Derek Davis as the treasurer. Yes, we like Wes Moore as the governor. Yes, we like Aruna Miller, the first Indian American lieutenant governor. But you know what we like more than those positions, David? We like that when you do a $1.8 billion expansion of BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport, that, yeah, we like the name BWI Thurgood Marshall. But what we like more than that is half of that $1.8 billion going to Black contractors.
That's right. That's right.
We like prime contractors not getting a waiver because they say they can't find a qualified Black contractor. Now, I got to tell you, David, I don't like having to prove I'm Black because I know every day I live in this damn community, I know I'm Black when the police come by or when they pull up behind you. I know I'm Black. Why I got to prove I'm Black? I'm sick of that, David.
Absolutely. Or when you file an application, and now we find that Navy Federal Credit Union was discriminating against Black mortgage borrowers. They run all these great ads, and now we find out from the feds that they were discriminating against mortgage borrowers. Yeah, I know I'm Black every day. You don't have to point that out to me. When I wake up, when I look outside, and when I go everywhere I go, I know it.
All right, David. So what's the shot of hope? You got to come up with a shot of hope now.
The shot of hope is
13 minutes left.
We got great young people out there who are doing great things that
who are you talking about? Like Martin Mitchell, Richard Deshae Elliott?
Kids that you and I don't know about who are doing stuff every day, the unsung heroes that existed when you and I were growing up, our neighbors, the folks who we see at the supermarket, who are doing those unsung things that make communities work on a day-to-day basis. Those are the people who give me hope. Those are the folks, these young people out here who still are full of optimism, who got the young girls and boys who got smiles on their faces every day. Those kids give me hope. I still have, as Barack Obama used to say, I still have a lot of hope in America. There's still some people, despite the odds, who are working out here every day. And I still think that America is the shining city, as Ronald Reagan said, the shining city on a hill. But we are a part of that shining city, and don't you forget it. And don't you forget to claim your part in it. Colin Powell said, it is our job to make each of us to play a role and make America a more perfect union.
Deion Sanders, tell me about him.
Great coach. I love what he did for college football this past year. I thought he did a great job, even though they finished on a losing streak to Colorado Buffaloes. He knows and understands what college football is today, and he's using the new rules. He's using the new rules of the transfer portal and everything to bring talent to Colorado. Here's a school that before Deion came won one game in the previous 2 seasons, and they won 4 games. And the athletic director said that Deion had paid for himself by the time the first game started. Season ticket sales were sold out.
I'm hearing Lamar Jackson for president. I'm hearing Deion Sanders for president.
Forgive me for smiling and almost laughing. It reminds me when I was.
They let a wrestler be the governor of what, Minnesota? They let Arnold Schwarzenegger run California. They let Ronald Reagan acted like an actor, Holly Weird. That's what Gil Scott-Heron said.
Well, the Constitution says you only got to be 35 years old and a citizen of the U.S. Those are only requirements.
Well, damn, Lamar's, he's not 35.
So he can't run.
Look at Joe Biden. Do you think he will last? It looks like his Energizer bunny rabbit battery is fading.
Yeah, he. I just watched the documentary on FDR, and there was no 24-hour news service back then, and you didn't see these pictures of. If you look at the pictures of FDR in his last year, he looked terrible. But again, you didn't have 24-hour news service. You didn't have pictures going around the world instantaneously. And, you know, Joe Biden, unfortunately, lives in a televised world. It's not what he started in when he got elected to the Senate. But, you know, this is the world that in 1970, but this is the world we live in today. And people get to see you and all your frailties of what's going on. And, you know, Joe Biden is 81 years old, Donnie, you know, and he's in the toughest job in the world.
You know, your boy Trump, he's mean. He's a beast. He called him Sleepy Joe.
Listen, Trump takes no prisoners. This is going to be a rough campaign. Joe Biden is probably one of the few people who could survive it, you know, and be able to punch back. I think this is going to be an interesting contest. I still think, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think Joe Biden is probably the only Democrat who could beat Donald Trump. I don't know how
he's a white male.
You know, people forget Joe Biden's background. You know, this is the same man who the segregationists considered him a son. Remember, he said that. He said that when he came to the Senate. This is the man who walloped on Anita Hill, Donnie, when he was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. This was a man who co-sponsored the crime bill. Okay.
And this is what, 30-year anniversary this year?
Mm-hmm. So Joe Biden is nobody.
Of the 94 omnibus crime bill.
Right. Joe Biden is nobody's saint. Okay. You know, he's nobody's
I remember he said, black people, the Republicans going to put you back in slavery. And I remember black people defending him for saying such an egregious thought.
And it was black voters who rescued him from the ash heap of history, which is where he was on his way to, until Jim Clyburn and South Carolina voters rescued him.
And Clyburn been taking hits for it ever since.
Not only has he been taking hits, he you know, in my opinion, if I saved you,
you're supposed to be taken care of.
Wait a minute, now I'm taken care of. When he put forth his candidate, nothing against Ketanji Brown, I'm very proud of her, but I would have thought you would have taken the sister who was the judge from South Carolina that Jim Clyburn put in front of you.
So Irvin Reed just made a comment on here, and
I love Irv. Irv's my guy. He's also a Ravens fan, but that's okay. I still love him.
Oh, slow down. You and I have not been obnoxious toward each other.
I'm not being obnoxious. I just said
yeah, you are,
Irv's a Ravens fan.
Come on, don't do this. Don't do this, David. Irvin Reed worked with Wayne Curry.
Yes, he did. Successfully.
Irvin Reed took hits, and he was misunderstood. I mean, nobody supported Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. She ran the worst campaign in history, in Maryland history.
Listen,
she said, "I'm not my father, I'm not my uncle," and then she turned her back on black people and walked away like we owe her something.
Listen, the downfall.
What do I owe that woman?
The downfall of Kathleen Kennedy Townsend was
Admiral Charles R. Larson.
Yes.
Overnight Democrat.
Yes. Because she promised the black don't forget, Donnie, don't leave this out. She promised the black community that she was going to choose an African-American running mate, and she didn't do it. And if you remember, and I can't remember his name, it escapes me at this. He was a state's Al Wynn was so upset that there was supposed to be a picture with Kathleen Kennedy Townsend and all the black members of the Black Caucus, the Maryland Black Caucus, after that was supposed to be taken that summer, and he canceled the photo shoot. He was so upset by it.
You're gonna learn today. And that's where we started to tap into our power. That's when people from Baltimore and Prince George's County started hanging out. We go to Prince George's come to Baltimore. We get to see, They let Donnie Glover into Woodmore. That's the first place I went. They let Donnie Glover up into Woodmore. Terry McAuliffe was there, the Democratic Party. They let Donnie Glover up in Woodmore. What? It's on and popping now. Black people in $1 million homes around a golf course. What? Oh my God, I thought I died and went to heaven.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you're right. So black people exercised their power and said, we're not taking this anymore. And Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, who was on her way to greater things, is now on the dustbin of history.
I remember Malik Rahman tried to introduce her to some to some notable black people. She told him, God rest his soul. She said, I'm not my father, I'm not my uncle. And she turned around, according to Malik, and walked away.
You're right. She's not her father's, not her uncle, and she never achieved those heights. She was absolutely right. She's not them. That's why she didn't get it. In fact, I'll pivot and say another famous quote to that was when Hillary Clinton was running for president. She made a comment. She said, you know, I didn't know it was this difficult. She said, Bill made it look so easy. And I said, that's because Bill Clinton loved people. I actually think Hillary Clinton didn't like people. That's why she didn't win.
Malcolm X said you can't serve the people if you don't love the people.
I don't think she loved people. I think she loved policy. I think she loved policy and policy debate, but I don't think she loved people.
Over the weekend, I was looking at Bill Clinton, and he's got Yasser Arafat, and I think it was Shimon Peres, and he made him shake hands.
Yes. And Yasser Arafat did not have his signature ivory handle pistol at his side either at that meeting.
David, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It was, Donnie. Thank you so much again for having me as your guest. I always am honored when you call me and ask me to come on and chat with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody, especially my friend Irv Reed.
He'll be here tomorrow.
Irv Reed. And remember, don't forget and don't let him off the hook, Donnie. Irv Reed by trade is a mathematician.
I know. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.